I did a video using my 13 Pro Max and the Moondog Labs Anamorphic bayonet mount version of their lens. If you haven't seen that, I'll put a link in the description. I really love the ability to shoot anamorphic on a phone, but sometimes the wide shots look a little distorted, which can be cool. But I also like using the tele lens because then you get a more telephoto anamorphic look, and I like that. However, using the 3x tele on the 13 Pro Max, I have found that the Moondog lens is soft. And not only is it soft, it appears to have chromatic aberration. It worked in this video because it's supposed to be a gritty look and it was rainy, but it's definitely something that is not ideal. And so today I'm going to figure out what's going on here. One thought I had was that the small rig cage was causing the issue. And so now that I have a Moment case, I'm going to test them against each other and see if that was the culprit. And then I'm also going to compare the Moondog to the Moment Anamorphic. But before we get to that, I want to show a baseline look, just the 3x tele by itself. So I'm shooting a color chart here in my studio using FiLMiC Pro. And so here's the actual footage, and as expected, it looks nice and sharp. And now I'll push in here 2 times, and this looks really good. So now we'll look at the Moondog Anamorphic. And again, this is on the Moment case now. So my theory is maybe the small rig cage is slightly misaligned and causing these aberrations and focus issues. So the Moment case is on with the Moondog lens, and I'm in FiLMiC Pro, and I'm using autofocus with peaking. This is the way I set focus 99% of the time. And typically it's pretty accurate. The focus is anyway, the peaking not necessarily. And so at first glance here, this looks okay. But in reality, when you jump in and look a little closer, it's soft. And by the way, this isn't completely unusual. Adding an external lens on another lens sometimes can cause softness, especially with cheaper lenses, which this one is not though. And so now we'll look at the Moment Anamorphic. So I got the same setup using the Moment case, shooting the color chart, using autofocus in FiLMiC Pro, and checking the peaking here. Peaking looks good, but peaking is not always super accurate, but it is in focus, and it looks pretty good. Although when you jump in, you can see there is some softness with this lens too. So now let's compare all 3. On the left is the 3x tele with no external lens. You can see it's really nice and sharp. On the right is the Moondog Labs, and yeah, not looking great. And now here is the Moment on the right. It too exhibits softness similar to the Moondog. However, the Moondog is worse, and so now Moment on the left, Moondog on the right. So my theory about the small rig cage is not holding up. Same issues using the Moment case. So now we'll look at the small rig cage with the same 2 setups. First up here is the Moondog. Exact same setup as before, but now with the small rig cage instead of the Moment case. Using autofocus in FiLMiC Pro. And just like before, peaking looks good, but it can be misleading. The footage is of course soft here. And you can especially see it on this zoomed in shot. And now here is the Moment on the small rig cage. And by the way, everything usually looks pretty sharp on these small iPhone screens. That can be very deceiving as well. So here's that shot, and it looks okay. But when I crop in again, just like before, it is soft. And here's a comparison of the 2 lenses on the small rig cage. Moment on the left, Moondog on the right. And pretty much exactly the same look as on the Moment case. So this is pretty confusing to me because I've used these kind of setups for years. And so let's go back real quickly and look at using my previous phones with this setup. Now we'll look at the 12 Pro Max, and it has a 2.5 times tele versus the 3 times tele in the 13 Pro Max. This is using the Moondog, and it too looks soft. And you can really see it here in the 2 times crop. All right, and here is the Moment Anamorphic on the 12 Pro Max. It too doesn't look great. And as a reminder, I did use autofocus and peaking just like before. And so what about the 11 Pro Max? First up, looking at the Moondog Anamorphic. And I'm unfortunately seeing a bad pattern here with this lens. Yeah, it's soft even on this 2x tele. So what about Moment? Yeah, well, no. Not looking great. All right, now I am really confused. I did not see that coming. What about using a Moment tele on the iPhone tele? I have done that for years with no problems at all. All right, so here is one of my favorite lenses on the 13 Pro Max, the Moment 58mm. And actually looks like it's in focus, but we've got some weird chromatic aberration going on. Man, that's disappointing. So now we'll look at it on the 12 Pro Max and it's 2.5x tele. Okay, now that looks better. Looking at the 2x crop, it's subtly soft, but I'm okay with this. That looks good. And now finally the 11 Pro Max and it's 2x tele. All right, now we're talking. This is what I hoped everything would look like on all these setups. Nice and sharp, very clear image. So really, these lenses were designed for the cameras of the past, the 2x tele. But does that have an effect on real-world performance? So here we go, the Moment Anamorphic on the small rig cage. And note, I am not using an ND filter because I did not want to add any other glass or filter on the outside to degrade the image. So this footage looks pretty good. I'm not seeing any noticeable softness or chromatic aberration. And this shot of the lamp here looks sharp. Got some shallow depth of field working there too. This is one reason I do like real world test versus more technical shooting chart kind of test, because sometimes those issues don't really show up. And that appears to be the case with this Moment Anamorphic on the 13 Pro Max tele. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the look here. And then the last shot of some dead looking trees during the winter. Looking forward to spring coming. But the shot looks good. All right, and now the Moondog, same setup. And to quote Luke Skywalker, I have a very bad feeling about this. Now, if you're watching this on your phone, you may not be able to see how soft this image is, but let me assure you, it's soft. Now this shot of the lamp here looks okay. It's passable, but it is just slightly soft, the lamp part. There is shallow depth of field going on. One thing I discovered in my testing with this is objects that are closer to the lens do okay. They're semi-in focus. The further something is away, it gets softer and in some cases goes completely out of focus. It's really weird. I don't know whether it's the camera bump, whether it's the app not focusing properly, whether it's the larger sensor causing the issue. There's a lot of things that could be going on, including that this could be a faulty lens. This shot of the trees in particular is completely out of focus. Again, I'm using autofocus in FiLMiC Pro, and using the tele lens, it just has a really tough time. If you try to manually focus, you can potentially get better results, but it still never gets tack sharp like it should. And so just to show you what I mean, this is now the lens on the wide iPhone lens, and it works great. So what this obviously shows is the Moondog Bayonet mount Anamorphic does not work on the 3X tele, not at all. But I started thinking, what about my original 37mm mount Anamorphic from Moondog? This is the lens I bought from them when they did a Kickstarter, I think back in 2017, 2016 range, and it's always been one of my favorites. And lo and behold, would you look at that? Tack sharp, looks great. Even this 2x crop looks excellent. So yeah, now I'm even more confused because this is a 5 or 6 year old lens and it looks the best by far. It's on the far right here in this comparison. Moondog Bayonet in the middle and Moment on the left. And here's the winter tree shot, now using the 37mm mount on the 13 Pro Max Telephoto, and it looks great. Well, I was really happy that the Moondog 37mm mount did in fact work. It actually worked great because I really like Moondog and do highly recommend their gear. So I'm not sure if the bayonet mount version I have is just flawed or if it inherently doesn't work properly with the 3X tele. Hey, it's future me, and I wanted to jump in here and say I contacted Moondog because those wide shots were just more out of focus than they really should have been, and so something had to be up. They sent me a replacement lens and it's better. but it's still not as sharp as the 37mm mount. And so something was up with the original lens. It had to be bad. Though it's a mystery why it works on the iPhone wide and not the tele. And the Moondog guys don't quite know yet either. I sent it back to them to check out. I'm glad I did this test to figure it out, and also to see that the Moment anamorphic is actually soft too when shooting the chart. Of course, it looked okay in more real-world scenarios. And that's the case now too with this new Moondog, the replacement lens I got. Shooting the chart, it looks a little bit soft, but out in the real world, I think this looks pretty good. These are the same shots I did in the previous test. All these look fine, and I have no real issue, minus this one shot. You can see a little bit of aberration here on the bottom left of the screen. Overall, it looks good though. I like it. And here's the tree shot once again, this time in much better focus, and the leaves are starting to come out. These tests were done several weeks apart. So if you want to use the 13 Pro Max 3x tele with an anamorphic, I'm recommending using the 37mm mount from Moondog. It's the sharpest and best out of everything I tested. Second would be the Moment. The Moment, in my opinion, performed a little bit better than the replacement Moondog. I didn't see the aberration with the Moment that I did with the Moondog, but otherwise it's pretty much even. I can recommend both. But again, the Moondog 37mm mount was my favorite. And remember, I'm just talking about using these on the 13 Pro Max and its 3x tele. They all work great on the 13 Pro Max standard wide lens. And regarding the Moment 58mm on the 3x tele, I'm not sure yet. I need to do some more testing on that one. But initial impressions are not great. So I might also do a follow-up video on it in the future as well. Let me know in the comments if you had any similar challenges using external lenses on the 13 Pro Max Telephoto. I've definitely heard some people are, but I don't know if it's widespread. And if you like this test, be sure to check out this video where I test out the ultra-wide camera and show several things you need to be aware of. Well, thanks for watching, guys. This is Blake Calhoun. Please like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.